talk to Father John in Canada?
Yes. We're on the same wavelength today, V. I love it. Father John in Canada. Hello.
Yes. Does this show end at 1 o'clock?
It does not.
That's my time zone.
No worries,
No, you're
man.
good.
Yeah, we've got time. Actually,
Okay, no, that's okay.
So while we also have time and we've got plenty of other callers and we're going to talk to you, there's something I forgot at the beginning of the episode. And that is, really quickly, Father John, if you don't mind, I'm just going to plug this really quickly. The Atheist Community of Austin is who puts on this show. Talk Heathen, the Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, and many others that are not coming to mind right now because my brain. That said, if you like what we do and you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. 2/3 of the way through the episode, I thank our patrons and our top 5 patrons. So if you want to become a patron, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. It is nearly 2/3 of the way through the episode. So I will be thanking our top 5 patrons after we're done talking to Father John, and we will be going to more calls after that. So while you still have time, and you can, patreon.com/talkheathen to me. Father John, thank you for waiting for that.
You're welcome. To be honest, I didn't really have a topic prepared because it just says you want to encourage a ongoing dialogue with theists and atheists about religion, theism. So if you want a dialogue and if you have any questions about Orthodox Christianity, I'm not sure if you've ever talked about that before.
Yes.
Specifically, I'm with the Russian jurisdiction.
Yes. So Eastern Orthodox.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Ooh, I have so many questions. But first of all, Father John, awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, before you begin, I will tell you that I just discovered your show was on Friday. Google just served it up for some reason, and I looked at a few episodes, and I thought, these guys seem pretty nice. But then I generally don't have a problem talking to atheists.
And then I yelled at somebody earlier in the episode. Well, cheers, man.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Okay, so first off, my roommate, he's another YouTuber. He goes by Holy Kool-Aid, and he's been researching, and he just recently put out an episode. It seems that communal spoons for communion, where everyone shares the same spoon, is a thing that people do. They use different, silver and gold or whatever the case is. But you have all of these parishioners who are, right now, I'm seeing all of these people going to receive communion, and they're all sharing the same spoon. And it's freaking me out because I see COVID. Is that something that is just like a hard line in orthodoxy, or is that something that they're doing? Is that something that you think is right? What's the take on that?
Okay, I'll explain that.
Sure.
My understanding is that the custom actually began with St. John Chrysostom. He was an early bishop, and it was because people were coming and because the clergy actually receive in the hand, in the altar, on the holy table. But what was happening is
people were taking the host home.
Abuse was happening where people, yes, exactly. So the way he solved that problem is to have the body of Christ in the blood of Christ and serve it on a spoon. Now, from our understanding, St. Ignatius of Antioch, he referred to communion as the medicine of immortality, or the pharmaceutic of immortality. The idea is that this is healing, and it cannot spread any illness whatsoever. So that is belief. However,
is that your belief?
It cannot. Yes, absolutely.
So
however,
just
we understand.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. From the outside, people who don't believe that would be extremely scared and have the reaction you're having right now.
Well, I absolutely. It looks like we've got a delay in the line, and you and I are both trying to be very polite. So are you saying that the transmission of COVID-19 cannot happen in church during communion.
Yes.
Okay. What about all of the times recorded that it has spread at church during communion? I mean, I can actually get names. Eastern Orthodox Russian churches. Yes, Eastern Orthodox Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually really terrible. There was
the thing is that there have been many examples over the centuries where there have been serious illnesses and stuff, and people discard it. It hasn't been tracked to that. And the way this is going on, that there could be many different reasons it's caused. But the thing is, we have directives from Moscow specifically for people who do not believe this, because the secular authorities have the power to shut us down if they believe it's dangerous. So we have precautions specifically, not for those with lack of faith, for those who have no faith and are observing. So are you interested in those precautions so that this is not a problem even from the perspective of those who don't believe?
So first off, I do want to get you that information. I highly suggest you check out Holy Kool-Aid's most recent video, because he went into some detail and gave some details that I don't have on hand. That said, it's been, well, actually, no. I think the more important thing here is you're saying that there's a very specific circumstance, Holy Communion.
Yes.
Right. The act of partaking in the bread and the wine and the transubstantiation as it's described gets rid of.
Do not use the word transubstantiation. That's a Roman Catholic term that came from scholasticism.
Eastern Orthodox. That's right. I'm sorry. Okay. It takes there's so many sections and splits. I apologize. You're saying that transmission cannot happen, because that sounds not only not true according to everything we understand about virology and the way diseases spread, but it sounds like that could potentially be incredibly dangerous. I mean,
yes, I agree that from your perspective and not believing it, that is the case. And that is why we have precautions, so that we would not have our churches shut down. Are you interested in those precautions? Because we are able to change things. This is not a hard set dogma that we have to follow as to how we do this.
Well,
it is a dogma that we can transmit disease through it, but we're following precautions so that people can't make such accusations that we are spreading this disease.
Well, I mean, any time you have a group of people when there's a pandemic together, you're going to get spreads of disease. I mean, you would even at least agree that other churches that don't.
I agree, but the thing is, you are attacking this practice, and I said we have precautions, but you don't seem to be interested in what those precautions are.
I am. I just want to get this piece because I feel like the transmission part is more important. I want to be very, very clear.
These are precautions to prevent transmission if what I said wasn't true, because that's why they're put in place specifically. Okay. So are you interested in those precautions?
I am. I also want this to continue to be a dialogue. Can I ask you along the way? So, like, can we have disposable spoons?
Well, how about I tell you what our precautions are, and then you can tell me. And each jurisdiction has a slightly different idea of how to do the precautions.
Okay, go for it.
The particular ones that we're following from Moscow is that we use the one spoon, and after a communicant has received, first of all, we are not touching the mouth with the spoon. We are dropping the Eucharist into the mouth. And afterwards, we have a cloth that has spirits on it, 70% alcohol, because that's supposed to kill anything, and the spoon is wiped. And the communicant, rather than being wiped on communal cloth, has an individual piece of paper towel that they wipe their lips with and give it to an assistant, and then the spoon is rinsed in boiling water to remove the alcohol before the next communicant. So according to all science, this is supposed to be safe. and the reason is we do not. If this is the body and blood of Christ, and we believe it is, we do not want it going in the garbage or in the sewer or anything. So all this is either those little pieces of paper are burnt up afterwards, and this is purified in a proper way. But we are following these precautions not because we believe it can be transmitted, but people from outside who do not have our beliefs would not believe that and would be mortified to see what's going on. So that is how we're dealing with it.
So I appreciate that you're taking some steps. There's also the whole idea of packing a whole bunch of people together when this is something that's aerosolized and spread.
And we're not doing that. Officially, the church is closed. We're following the amount of people that were in there. We're following all the directives that were given. We're following everything that the government has told us.
All right. I mean, hey, that's a whole lot better than I thought. Would you consider going door to door?
Door to door?
Yeah.
Well, I could.
Well, I mean, just to give communion.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant like the Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons.
No. I'm trying to. If Jada wants to call in, I'm happy to talk to her.
Yeah, if that's necessary, we can bring Eucharist to the sick. That's why we reserve it. So we can bring it door to door. It all depends on the situation and how people want to do things.
All right. Well,
generally, we would follow every directive that the government gives us as long as it doesn't violate the faith. And I mean, it goes back to ancient Christianity where the Roman government required people to sacrifice to idols, and that wasn't possible. And so that was a government directive that we had no choice but had to disobey. And that's why we had many martyrs in the first few centuries.
So hold on just a second.
As long as the directive doesn't violate the faith, we will follow it because we have to be good citizens.
Well, so yeah, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. I get that. But I would also say that if you really think that people can't get sick this way, then are you willing to test it? I mean, surely you've read in the Bible that there are plenty of times that God has tested people, right? Testing it wouldn't be extra biblical. It wouldn't be impossible. Even Jesus showed himself to doubting Thomas. So would you test it?
Well, I'm not afraid of it at all, so it wouldn't be a test for me. I would just do it. It doesn't matter.
I'm saying to convince us.
Yes, I would. Yes, but
cool.
Why? I'm not about to violate any government regulations. So
yes. Also, I would like to go on record as saying Talk Heathen does not advocate trying to infect yourself with COVID in order to prove God to us.
No. What I'm saying is...
No. I understand. Yes. I would, but then I would not, exactly for that reason, I would not violate what has been handed down to us by our particular civil government.
So here's what I would love, and I will offer time on this platform if you do this. And I will tell people about it. And let me tell you what it would be. If you reached out to an accredited university near you that would be willing to partner with you on doing this, and then in a controlled environment that's safe, perform those rites on things to see if COVID-19 still exists there before and after, right? So if you have the wine before it becoming, the blood of Christ, and after, if your beliefs are true, then after there will be no evidence of COVID-19. And I would love to see that, because that evidence would be a hell of it would be a hell of a lot more convincing to me. And if you believe it,
right,
I don't see there being a problem. I would actually give you time to talk about it. I would tell people, hey, check out this study. They're putting their money where their mouth is. Would you be willing to do that?
No.
Why?
Specifically because that would be an abuse of the sacred things.
Well, so take it afterwards.
No. The thing is that we really are not interested in proving anything to anybody scientifically.
Well, then why are you making any steps?
We will talk. What's this?
Then why are you taking any steps if you're not trying to?
Well, why should we have our churches closed down and outlawed? We are following the law.
No, he's following the requirements from Moscow.
We are following the civil governments. We do not want to cause any problems.
So
which I appreciate. I think that if people in the U.S. in evangelical Christian churches out here did the same thing, there would probably be a lot better of a situation. So I do applaud that. That is a useful thing to do and being a good citizen. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. We have had examples of people doing stuff like this. An example more recently would be St. John of Shanghai in San Francisco, where he had given communion to a sick woman. I believe it was rabies she had, and she threw up, and he immediately ate what she threw up because he believes that's the body and blood of Christ. And he had no hesitation, no fear, and he did not get rabies.
So
and this is in recent times. I forget when he reposed. I think it was in the 1950s.
Honestly, that very clearly goes to a point that I was wanting to move into. So I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's gross. I understand why you think it's awesome. Yes. I think it's gross. Well, I'm sure you see why I would think it's gross. But
I tend to agree. I do not have faith of St. John of Shanghai.
So that said, after communion, what happens to the rest of the wine?
Well, I'm actually a deacon, and I'm the least senior deacon. So I'm actually the one that consumes all that's remaining. So if anyone is sick, I would be the one who actually would receive it.
Let's clarify that for the listeners, because that's something I know and that's something you know, but that's not something that everybody knows.
I should also say that apparently this illness was among the population before we were given these directives and started following them. So if it was at all in the church, I would be the one to have received it.
Well, so it's not a guaranteed thing. There is a percentage, and there are actual cases. I do want you to look into where I told you to check out Holy Kool-Aid's most recent video, because there are Eastern Orthodox churches that have become horrible centers for disease that have just absolutely, because they wanted to hide the fact that everybody was getting it, it just got really, really bad. So I definitely suggest that you look into that, because I think that is proof positive against your claim. But that said, there's an interesting thing here. And the interesting thing that I would love for people to walk away with is whether or not flies land in the wine, whether or not it has backwash, whether or not there's a lot or a little, Father John will drink it afterwards to make sure that there's not a drop left, right?
Well, we should not be letting the flies touch it. If we're doing that, we are not actually following our obligation as clergy. So, even in canon law, that if someone does not store the Eucharist properly in reservation for the sick, and rats eat it, I believe he's to be defrocked. So, it's very serious that we believe this is the body and blood of Christ. So we are very protective of it. We will not be having flies landing. And as far as backwash, the only backwash that would be from the clergy, because the people receive from the spoon. But normally you would lick the spoon and stuff. But yes, I consume it all, because I believe it's the body and blood of Christ, and I can't get sick from it.
So, in fact, Father John,
I will add that often clergy who have a cold or something like that, they will ask me, "Can I receive the remaining?" And more often than not, the cold or whatever they're complaining of goes away afterwards.
Wow, kind of like what colds do.
Yeah, that's something that happens. But
absolutely. Yeah, well, immediately afterwards.
I hope
it doesn't always happen.
Father John, I hope that you don't get ill. I do, because I've seen what it's done to people. Just watching and following it on the news, I've seen how it's damaged families. I would hate for you to get ill. That said, I hope you understand, I would hate for people to take you seriously, because I think that they could potentially get it. You included.
I understand.
I don't want you to take you seriously.
Well, we actually don't expect people who don't believe to actually believe. I mean, if they believed and they didn't believe, that's a logical contradiction. So I wouldn't expect you to think any otherwise as being an atheist.
Fair enough. Fair enough. How about you look into that video? Look into the documented cases of of the spread of COVID-19 in the Eastern Orthodox Church in Russia, and call back and let me know what you think, because I'd be very interested to see what you thought.
To be very honest, it's a very controversial issue just from a scientific perspective. So I would actually like to stay clear of the whole COVID-19 thing. I mean, we have, I guess it's around 500 physicians that spoke up not that long ago in the United States, saying there's some serious scientific misconduct in what has been reported and stuff. But so I think it's best that we stay clear of that topic altogether, simply because even within the scientific community, there's a great deal of controversy.
See, here's the thing, though. I feel like I have an ethical, moral responsibility that when it's brought up, and it appears to be a belief that could be very damaging to other humans, that it's my responsibility to use this platform to address them. And maybe calling in after the outbreak could be better, but right now I don't know how I could honestly look myself in the mirror without challenging those ideas if you're here to talk about it, because that is just the most important thing on my mind right now when it comes to Eastern Orthodoxy and the time and place that we're at.
Well, it seems this is going to be with us for at least a couple of years, so I'll have to phone back in a couple of years from now on that.
Well, I hope you keep watching. I hope you keep listening, and I appreciate you calling in. I hope you understand why I'm feeling compelled. Maybe you could call into the Atheist Experience, our big sister show, or you could call in when I'm not hosting to continue a conversation, maybe with V. But personally, I don't think that I could have a conversation that didn't address something that I felt was very, very dangerous.
Okay, yeah, but fine. But the reality is that we haven't really talked about anything much to do with the Orthodox faith, other than we believe this is the body and blood of Christ. And if we said anything else, we would be denying the Orthodox faith.
Well, I mean, I would say better to deny. I mean, I would say better to deny the faith if it is shown to hurt people. But the thing is I don't know if we have enough time.
We are taking the precautions to prevent this from happening. Apparently, 70% alcohol will kill it. So, I mean, these precautions have been taken so that people making arguments such as yourself cannot argue against it, because we have taken these precautions. What's done elsewhere in the world, I can't speak to, because I don't know. And just because people call themselves Orthodox does not necessarily mean they are.
Well, or it doesn't mean that they follow it the same way you do.
Open up a whole can of worms. So, I mean, that's, there's a great deal of controversy about this, and this is just a topic that we'd be better off talking about rabies or some other contagious thing rather than specifically COVID-19, simply because of the controversy surrounding it.
Well, I appreciate that you stuck to your guns. I would love to see a good cited study for any kind of disease and the impact of what happens before and after that communion process, where you have something that is viewed as wine and then it is viewed as the blood of Christ, and whether or not in that process you have eliminated disease, because that would be something that would change the world. That would be something that would
never happen.
I mean, it would change the world. It would be incredible. We'd have Eastern Orthodox.
I doubt that.
I don't. About it. Could you imagine
all the miracles surrounding Christ, particularly resurrection, all that? If that was true, the vast majority of people didn't believe it, who actually witnessed it and stuff.
Yeah, but they don't have to believe it.
Why would a little? No. The thing is, the people at that time. This is how it's recorded. Very few actually believed. So, of the population, that's in Jerusalem, that would have seen many of these signs and stuff, if that happened. So I wouldn't expect a little miracle here, a little there to convince everyone. No, I don't believe that. I really don't believe
it. It would help me a heck of a lot. Am I worth it?
Well, you would have to choose some other miracle to test, because we would not be putting the Eucharist through any scientific exam whatsoever, because that would be a violation of our faith.
I don't think so. I think Doubting Thomas did exactly that, and Jesus went to Doubting Thomas.
No, he didn't. And actually, Doubting Thomas, that's not really an Orthodox thing, because all the apostles doubted. All of them disbelieved.
It was
all of them did.
Okay, so if
and we don't refer to him as Doubting Thomas. He was the first apostle to say, "My Lord and my God." So he was actually the first one to proclaim that Christ was God.
Cool.
So that he made the first greatest profession of faith.
Okay, how about Paul?
What's this?
How about Paul?
Yes.
I mean, God cared enough about Paul to appear and have this miracle. Right? Paul experienced this event on the road to Damascus. Does God care more about Paul than he does about me?
He cares about us all, but everyone is individual and goes through a different path. So, I mean, I have no idea where you're on your path, where you're going, and it's really none of my business. Paul, on the other hand, was a very specific thing. It's very specific happened, and it had nothing to do with performing scientific studies on the Eucharist, what happened to Paul. So, I mean, it's a very different situation. You can't compare the two.
What I'm saying is
to do something that we're not allowed to do, whereas with Paul, well, that's perfectly allowable. If God chooses to do that, he can.
I'm saying you have biblical examples of God going out of his way to make himself known to the people who want spreading the word.
You're specifically asking me to do something that would be a violation of my faith in order to prove my faith. Like, that doesn't make any logical sense.
Well, I don't know if logic comes into it.
Do what you're saying.
So hold on. So any rigorous scientific study.
Hey guys, we're coming up on 2:30.
No.
Oh no. Okay, I'm sorry. And I was talking over. V had no chance to talk. Father John, once all this blows over, I'd love to talk to you again if you wanted to call when I wasn't hosting. Cheers. Okay. There are so many things that I have wrong with the church, but that one in particular right now was really, really important. And so I'm glad we talked about it to the degree that we did.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to call back, because generally I'm still, well, by the time you start, I'm kind of finishing up at church. And so, I mean, it was just the way things worked out today that I was actually even able to phone in. So,
would you do me a favor?
Everything. Yes.
Shoot me a message, mail@talkheathen.com.
Oh.
I would love to find a time to sit down with you for a longer amount of time to talk about things.
Okay. So what was that address again? Or where can I find it?
So it's right on the bottom third. If you go back and watch this, it's mail, M-A-I-L, @talkheathen.com.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Take care, man. Thank you for calling.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm so sorry, V.
I just want to clarify something from where I stand. I consider I have my own issues with the Orthodox Church and the proposal that for some reason God is forbidding us the ability to scientifically prove whether or not a claim that God made is true. I feel like that is suspect and should be talked about more. But the idea of secular humanism is to allow everybody to worship as they please within restrictions that will protect humankind. Okay. And I think that the concept of the Orthodox Church working with the secular government in a way that is not overreaching in either way to make sure that they are taking the necessary precautions is actually a really good example of what we need here in the United States. So I'm actually kind of disappointed in the way that call went, because I would have liked to drill into that a little bit more. But
I'm sorry,
yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I hope it calls in. I really kind of took the reins on that and shot ahead. And I'd love to see that conversation had more. People are saying in the chat, well, this person has got is representative of all of this. The show is here for people who don't agree with us to call in and talk to us about those beliefs. And if I would have torn in and gone for the jugular, we would not have had him sharing as much of what he believes and why he believes those things. Do I think that those things can be dangerous? Yeah. Do I think that there have been a lot of abuses? Yeah. We're here to have the conversation. I'm glad you're angry, but that's not going to prevent us from talking to him. It's because of that we are.